An interesting thing about masking is that an autistic person who is heavily masking will sometimes pretend to like that which they truly, inside of them, dislike. For instance, an autistic person who does not like being touched may pretend that they like being touched. An autistic person who does not like loud noise may pretend that they love loud noise. An autistic person who does not like something may pretend that they love it, or vice versa. And this is a feature of autistic masking that is quite common, not only me back in the days when I used to mask, but in other autistic people who are still trapped in that. An important way to look at the masking of autism is through understanding it as a form of epigenetic trauma. What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is the scientific study of how one's expression of genetic traits, one's genetic phenotype, changes in response to environmental factors, usually stressors. Epigenetic trauma happens when the DNA, the genetics of a person, are coded to act in a certain way. The genetics don't change, but the role of the genetics, the role of the DNA is suppressed, and the DNA is not able to act. This perfectly describes autistic masking. Autistic masking suppresses the DNA that wires a person to act autistic, but does not provide a viable alternative. It simply smashes the DNA. I've noticed something very interesting. I've noticed that when an autistic person masks, I've noticed this in myself and I've noticed in some other autistic people, when an autistic person masks, they are more likely to negatively view autistic traits openly expressed in other people. Why is this? This is because if an autistic person is masking, a huge root core of an autistic person's mask is negatively viewing and negatively thinking about autism as a concept and one's autistic traits expressed in oneself. After all, if one did not negatively view one's autistic traits, one probably wouldn't mask. Therefore, it is projecting that internalized negativity onto other autistic people. This is how disastrous masking one's autism is. One thing that both autistic and non-autistic people need to know about masking autism is that it is very broad and expansive in terms of what it does to a person. That is probably the biggest reason why it is so damaging. That it is so broad, expansive, and complex in terms of what it does to a person. It's more than just forcing eye contact or suppressing stims. It's much more complex. It comprises a complex range of behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, responses, suppression of responses, redirection of natural tendencies into things that are forced and artificial, and a host of other complex behaviors and phenomena. And because every autistic person is different, every autistic mask will likewise be different, and that only adds to the complexity of masking as a phenomenon. Some autistic people are extroverted, and for extroverted autistics, masking can be more of a challenge because when you're extroverted, you feel more like you have to be in line with other people or with social norms. You feel a stronger need to be accepted. You feel a stronger need to be around people and to make other people happy. That's why being an extroverted person can make a autistic mask even thicker. This is not to say that being extroverted is bad. It's just that it's something to think about and watch out for if you're both extroverted and autistic. As for me personally, I'll tell you something very interesting. During my middle school years and during my first semester of high school, my extroversion was itself a mask. I masked as extroverted.